balance is a skill. You can't say it doesn't exist just because you haven't learned it yet. Like, I can't say cooking doesn't exist, or basketball doesn't exist, or staying properly hydrated doesn't exist. They're just things that I haven't figured out yet. And the same is true with a lot of people and balance. They just haven't figured it out yet. But they also think that it doesn't even exist in the first place, which is their loss. So in this video, we are breaking down some of the myths that I hear most commonly around work-life balance and what to believe instead. Stay tuned for some possibly unpopular opinions. If you are new here, hello, I am Brittany. I am the founder at Work Brighter, and we are here to help you find a better balance between work and rest. And this video is the first in a new series called The Brighter Take, where we break down commonly misunderstood concepts around those two topics. So hit subscribe to catch the rest. Now back to balance. I would say, honestly, the majority of the people that I know professionally don't really think work-life balance exists, or at least they don't think that what they define as work-life balance exists. And honestly, I used to be one of those people too. For years, I was shouting balance is a myth all over the place. I apologize to anyone that heard me. And maybe you are someone that believes it's a myth too. Comment below and let me know whether or not you have ever believed in balance. But in the years that I have been working on my workaholism and developing a healthier relationship with my work and my job, I've changed my mind. I believe in it now. Now, my opinion isn't that balance is a myth, but that myth is a myth. Now, I think that hustle culture tricks us into believing that we shouldn't strive for balance or try to have balance to trick us into devoting even more of ourselves to work. And it worked. The ways that late-stage capitalism has made a whole generation of us feel really pressured to define ourselves by our work and to love what we do has been very well documented. Two of the best books that I've read about this last year were Can't Even by Anne Helen Peterson and Kids These Days by Malcolm Harris. Highly recommend them both. But because hustle culture has conditioned us to think about work in very rigid, black and white, strict ways, and balance doesn't fit a black and white mold. It can't be easily understood and clear cut. That conditioning tricks us into not believing it exists at all. It conditions us to just write off the concept and the effort completely. But the whole reason that I started Work Brighter and named it what I did is because the way we work in reality isn't black and white. And Work Brighter has always been diving into that gray area and figuring things out and then lighting that shit up like a rainbow. So let's look at why it's so easy to believe that balance doesn't exist and why those things aren't actually as straightforward as they seem. So the three main arguments that I hear for why balance is a myth is that it's not on a day-to-day basis, it's not 50-50, and it's not just work and life. And here's the complicated thing. All three of those things are true, but they also don't tell anywhere near the whole story. So I don't see why we can't live in a world where those three things are true and balance still exists. Let's tackle that first one, that life doesn't look balanced on a day-to-day basis. I totally get that we all go through busy seasons and slow seasons and in-between seasons, and that we all have areas of our life where we are more focused on one thing than another. That's okay, because that is a very zoomed-in view, and in reality, our life is way more zoomed out than that. If you're part of the Work Brighter community already, you know how often I encourage you to zoom out and take a bigger picture view of your life and your goals and your productivity. And this is an example of that. So if you think that balance is impossible for you because you are in the type of work that has a busy season or a slow season or something like that, you are mistaken, my friend. It is still totally possible for you. Balance is still something that you can have. Well, not have, but we'll get to that in section 3 of the video. The second argument that I hear against the idea of balance a lot is that it's not 50-50. And to that I say, 50-50 of what? Most people who say this are thinking about work and productivity and balance strictly in terms of time. But unless you're new around here, you know that I am all about the energy. I very strongly believe that energy is a more effective and impactful measure of our work and productivity than time. Just last week, my video was literally about this, about why energy is the most most important measure of productivity. So the comparison that I like to give here is thinking about size versus weight. Imagine that you have a scale with two balls, one 3 times the size of the other. The scale can't possibly be balanced, right? Wrong. They totally can if the big ball is like a light inflatable basketball or beach ball, and the smaller one is made of a way more dense, heavy material like glass or solid plastic. Time and size might be the easiest way to measure things, but they are rarely the most effective way, especially when talking about balance. When it comes to balance and productivity, it is all about weight and energy. And the final argument that I hear against the idea of balance is that it's not just work and life. It's not just those two things. Honestly, that's the one that I used to lean on, and that's the one that I used to be like,
well, balance can't exist because this, meh, meh, meh.
And yes, the phrase work-life balance is general and maybe not the best, but it's what our society has, and it's what people understand when I say it. So call it whatever you need to. Call it balancing work and play. Call it balancing work and family. Call it balancing productivity and rest, like we do here at Work Brighter. I don't care what you call it, but I care whether or not you care about it and believe in it, because it does exist and it is important for your mental health and well-being. I like to say that I believe in balance because after all the health stuff I've been through, both physical health and mental health, I have to have my health as such a big priority that I am actively balancing it with work. So it is important. So in this section, I want to talk about why I need you to believe in balance, even if it's not 50-50 or every day or just work and life. First of all, it's just hard to come up with a better word that describes what it feels like to be balanced. There we go, to be balancing or handling or juggling multiple responsibilities at a time. Believe me, I've tried the alternatives. Before I saw balance the way that I do now, I did try to come up with other phrases to talk about this, and I did, look up the alternatives for what other people were saying, and just honestly, none of them feel as accurate. Balance is an accurate descriptor, even more so once you listen to part 3 of this video and hear the mindset shifts I want you to make about it. The alternates no, I don't like them. Work-life integration sounds like a nightmare as someone who is a big fan of boundaries. I don't want my work integrating with the rest of my life any more than it already has. And most of the time, the problem more often than not is that there's already too much integration and not enough boundaries. And work-life harmony, I just feel like that phrase is gaslighting us and making us think that this whole effort is supposed to be this nice, easy, beautiful thing worthy of Disney birds chirping harmoniously at our window. Not true. It's not easy, it's not beautiful or melodious, and it can feel like it's literally killing us sometimes. On the other hand, when I say work-life balance, people most of the time know what I mean. And just as a fan of effective communication, I am going to use the phrase that the people I'm communicating with understand. Second of all, there is absolutely no denying that we all have multiple responsibilities to juggle, and we can only go so long ignoring any one of them without consequences. As much as I love Ron Swanson, the dude is wrong about some things, and one of them is that sometimes it is better to half-ass 2 things or 4 things or 6 things than it is to whole-ass 1 thing, because those other 5 things would have consequences. This is real life. So the sooner you embrace that dance, the easier things will feel. Speaking of dance, now we are at the part of the video where I have a few mindset shifts that I want you to make to change the way you think about balance, and I think that they'll get you on board with it. First one is that balance is a verb. Like, yes, it can be a noun and an adjective, but not in this conversation. In the conversation around work and balance, balance is an active verb. verb. It is something that you do, that you wake up and you choose to do and you try. It's not something that you will just magically or spontaneously have. You're not gonna feel balanced if you do not try to act balanced. You don't know this, but I was a dancer for 20 years. And in middle school and high school, I spent on average from 20 to 40 hours per week at my dance studio. And you do not spend that much time in a dance environment without developing some fairly strong feelings about balance. Balance is a big part of dance, and how we look at balance in dance, I realize now has informed the way that I currently look at work-life balance. So my second and third mindset shifts come from that. The second mindset shift is that balance is a skill, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Balance is not something that you're going to be inherently good at. It's something that you're going to have to try at and practice, like any other part of dance or like any other part of work. The same is true with balancing work with the rest of your life. It's not gonna come naturally in the hustle-focused, super capitalistic world that we are currently in. But you can practice anyway and build the muscle memory needed to make it easier. I am proof of that. And the third mindset shift that I want you to make is that I want you to start looking at the act of balancing as the act of shifting or adjusting. In dance, there are multiple different elements of balance and multiple different situations or poses that you would balance in. And you can be better at some of them than others. Because at the core of it, balancing was about adjusting or shifting your core and your center of gravity as you moved the rest of your body. And some of those shifts or adjustments are easier for different people than others. For example, since my feet had high arches, balancing on my toes or on releve came fairly easy to me. But since my feet were also small and in comparison I was fairly top heavy, anything that involved like a penché where my leg would go up and my torso would go down, that was a lot harder to me because adjusting my center of gravity in that kind of movement came a lot harder to me. The same is true with life balance. Some adjustments and shifts will be easier and more natural than others. For example, now that I have been working on the balance between my work and my rest and self-care very heavily for a few years now, I've got that shift, that balance pretty handled. But other things like also balancing my friendships and other relationships or balancing housekeeping, I don't have those down yet as well. But with more practice, I will. So I am practicing. And with those three ways of thinking, balance starts to feel a lot more possible. I know that that better balance will come in time. And so I hope that this gave you something to think about and some new ways to think about and look at balance in your own life and work. And I really hope that because of that, your life and work can start to feel a little bit more balanced. At the very least, I hope you now believe in it. So comment below and let me know whether or not you do believe in balance, along with what else you would like to see an episode of The Brighter Take about. And if you liked this video and the whole concept of debunking common phrases, you might also be interested in my video about why maybe we shouldn't leap out of our comfort zones and why maybe comfort zones are awesome. So check that out if you're interested, and have a brighter week.